I apologize in advance for the very distracting lighting this morning. I've got sun coming in and I'm not complaining about that sun, but I'm having a hard time trying to control it with the lighting for this little video this morning. But do want to get this video out to you so that you can just kind of start thinking this week about assessments. And I just presented a little seminar this week on teacher presence in the online classroom. And I was kind of combining some of the ideas for this class with that idea of creating a presence. And I think that the one reading especially, or the one section, we're talking about what is your role. I'm looking over at my other screen to see what we're actually working on this week to make sure I'm not misleading you. But just what is your role as an instructor in these with your students, and how can you use every opportunity, even assessments, to project that there is a learning experience going on that's not done in isolation. And that's something that I constantly mill over, because I think I really relied back in teaching face-to-face, and still when I teach my face-to-face classes, I rely a lot on, nonverbals, my own, what I'm trying to project to students, and also on theirs. I'm a really expressive speaker. I speak with my hands a lot. In fact, one of my former students is actually an online teacher now, and she was in my seminar and she said, "Oh, it was fun to watch you teach again with your hands." Okay, so these are all things that I've been mulling over, and I really think it has some direct correlation to how we assess. What are you projecting to your students in the way that you assess them on their work? And I actually did not design these assignments. I had some say in them, but what I really liked about the assignments that we have for this class is they're very conversational. And that's intentional, because we want this to be a conversation among professionals. So a lot of this, how do you assess, has to do with who you're assessing. I had kind of an idea going into this course that I was assessing, obviously, adult learners and learners who had a lot of experience in education, and I was also going to guess that most of you have been pretty successful in former classes, and I almost felt like to give you too much that would have been like multiple choice would have been to speak to you something that I didn't mean to speak in terms of this class. And here's where I'm coming from on this. I think that what we need to think about as we're choosing our assessments for students is, one, who we're teaching, and then one, who we want to be to our students as we're teaching them, right? So I hope you enjoy the video and the readings this week. One of the things in the readings took my thoughts right out of my head, and is talking about how you can use multiple choice effectively for formative instruction. I mentioned this, I think, last week with you, that how often are you going to reset your allow students to reset? Is it possible that letting them retake a test several times could actually be a form of formative instruction? And then how are you going to weight that in with their other assessments? How are you going to speak to them that this is only worth this much because, and kind of explain the rationale to them. I think the other piece that this made me think of, more recently, I took an online class. I mentioned to you that piece, and in the past, I've often known the students that I'm taking the course with. I didn't for this particular one. But I'm going to tell you right now that when one of the institutions I work for gives us professional development and then tests us on whether or not we've learned the information using multiple choice, and this is not this university, by the way, we all share our answers. That's cheating. I admit it. What could my instructors do to make sure that I've really done my work? A lot of these LMSs have the option to, every time that test is released, to change the order of the questions. I mean, little things like this. Or do you care? In some ways, we're walking through the test together and we're collaborating. Is that a bad thing? I don't think so, and I don't think that's cheating. But you hear what I'm saying in this is, where are we going to get the most authentic assessment, and what are we trying to assess? One of the simple ways that in brick and mortar days I started kind of assessing my own assessments was I would go through my multiple choice tests, and I do think there is a place for multiple choice tests. Let me tell you that loud and clear. And most of your students coming to you will have the most experience with this kind of test, especially in light of our state testing and what our standardized tests look like. But one of the things that I used to do is see how many times I started with the same questioning word. And what I realized is that sometimes I relied on, it was easiest to create multiple choice questions that were sort of asking, making sure that they were really checking their reading. You know, those old school, okay, pop quiz, let's see if you really read. Okay, those types of questions. And I started trying to edit those out and really get to the core of the content I was trying to teach, especially for my higher level students. I didn't want them just to tell me who the main character was in the story or what happened in the story. I wanted to tell, this is obviously from my literature background, I wanted them to explore for me how the character reflected elements of the setting and how the author described those character and setting elements as similar to create an overall effect. And those questions are admittedly more difficult to write, but I'm sure you'd agree they have more value in really making students think at that higher level on Bloom's taxonomy. So just a lot of things to think about. I think in summary, this week, what I want you to really focus on is who are my learners, what kind of presence do I want to create with my learners, and how can I convey both my objective for learning and this whole idea of a classroom climate through how I assess students. And again, just really breaking it down at every level. What kind of questions am I asking? How am I asking them? When am I asking them in the course? Is this formative? Is this summative? What is my purpose in this? And this has been so good for me to think about because we're rewriting curriculum for that one high school for a high school course with the new Common Core. I'm sure you've heard rumors about this. And this is coming into play beautifully for me right now. Here's another question I want to throw out to you. Is how many questions is appropriate for an assessment, both in a written response type of assessment and a multiple choice type of an assessment. This is something I've been challenged on because so many of our assessments are very short because when I teach in the high school setting, my students gravitate towards those one and done easy assignments and they look for them and they skip over material to get to them. But is it really fair to only give them 5 questions? All of a sudden, all you have really are the students who do well and the students who fail. There's not very, mathematically, it doesn't work out very well to have an average grade. And so it's something that I've been really challenged to rethink, that yes, I wanted them to be quick, but I didn't want them, is it accomplishing, does it fit everything else that I'm trying to do? And along with that, even just being challenged to think about just the overall, that time piece, and do I want them to be able to flip back to other resources as they're taking these assessments, and what am I really getting? Am I really getting what they learned? Is a failed grade, and does that grade really tell me a profile of that student's learning? Wow. I can hear that commercial right now, wow, mind-blowing, right? Lots of things to think about. So what are we doing this week, actually in this unit? The first thing is just looking at the changing role, our role as assessors. And I do also believe, sorry, tangent note, that when we're writing assessments, there are opportunities, especially if we're treating it as a formative assessment, to actually do teaching within the assessment. Consider this for just a second. I know I'm back and forth here, but this is really key. Because my less motivated students only gravitate towards the quick assignments, what we have started to do is actually build in teaching within the actual, how we ask the question, little hints or places where they can go and look back, so that we're actually, if that's the only thing they're going to open, if they're not going to open the teaching pages, they're at least getting a glimmer. Again, who am I assessing? I have low motivated high school students. On the other end of the spectrum, I have people like you that I'm teaching in courses, and then also some undergrad students that are just getting their first taste of online learning. And content, who you're teaching, all of these things are going to form how you assess. Okay, so you're going to be reading several articles and actually watching a video. And this is where you're going to start seeing a pattern here, and I like patterns in online learning. This is something I'll just throw in here that I've had a lot of students give me feedback that when there's a predictable pattern, it really helps them in an online classroom. I think it's also good in brick and mortar, but there's something to be said about a little bit of predictability. You're going to be using a discussion board post here. You're going to choose one quote from the readings heads up on that before you start jumping in. Look for the quote ahead of time, or from the video that illustrates how you feel you need to adjust your attitude toward yourself as instructor in the online blended classroom. This is a little bit of soul searching here. Second, you're going to post the quote and include your APA citation, okay, and explain why you chose the quote. I'm just reading right off of here, don't want to be insulting, but the way this is all coming together is you're going to be pulling a quote and sharing it out for how it applies to you. The second piece this week, so 4.2 is going to be a blog, and again, I know that you can read for yourself. It helps me to even just talk through it a little bit with you. I'm not grading discussion boards and blogs until the end of the unit, so your last unit feedback will come to you this week, hopefully sometime tomorrow actually. And if you're not able to see that feedback, I've been spending quite a bit of time on the feedback, and all of a sudden it occurred to me, I don't really check to make sure you can see. I had one person email me a comment that reflected that, okay, and I'm not asking you to necessarily email me, but if you have not seen any of my feedback, please tell me, because I'm trying to really be thorough with that. And then, okay, so we have the discussion board this week, and then the blogs based on some readings as well, and there's a different prompt. The next week we're responding, and we're continuing on with your portfolio project in your wiki, exploring again just this role as assessor and that kind of thing. So I'll let you look at the details on that later. I don't want to insult you by reading it to you. You know the pattern, you know the drill. Let me know if you have any needs or concerns for this unit, and I look forward to reading your responses. I'm learning so much from you.